Today we're going to look at America becomes the #1 world power. Remember, glory, so this is where we're really going to get into this, all right? So, as we already discussed, the sphere of influence is a major thing going forward here. And so this sphere of influence is going to exist in China. Right, so we're afraid of the sphere of influence, but China, if you know something about China, happens to be the most populous nation in the world with people, and so we want to make sure that we can get this. Now, to many people, we saw it as this, and so China is right there and like a pie, and everybody wanted a piece of that pie, to quote the Jeffersons, right? And so we have the English Queen, we have the Germans or the Prussians, we have the French, we have the Portuguese, we have the Japanese, and the Chinese saying, hey, hang on, this isn't right. So we come up with a solution. Now, the first area they tried to add is actually right next to it, and it's called Manchuria. And it was debated, who should have Manchuria, the Chinese or the Japanese? Well, the Japanese rolled in, fresh off a war with some other islands, and they wanted to get this happening. Now, the United States steps in and says, we want free trade for China. Stop carving it up. Stop cutting your piece of China out, and let's see what we can do here. Now we go to the drawing board, and what we come up with is called the open door policy. And so the open door policy is that China should be a free trade market for everyone, and everyone should have equal access. Now understand, it's a little bit about China. It's mostly about the United States. We wanted to have free access because we wanted to be able to use their labor and different things like that. So that's what's going on there. Now, the man behind this is Secretary of State John Hay. John Hay is a very important man when it comes to this, and also with the Panama Canal. And so we'll come back in him. He's Secretary of State at this time. Now, not everyone in China liked this. There existed a society that was known as the Harmonious Society of the Fist and the Foot, or simply Boxers. I don't get it. And so they led a rebellion called the Boxer Rebellion, where they fought against the imperial powers. Americans, British, didn't matter. And the way they did it is they would actually go into people's home and say, did you support them, drag them into the street, and kill them. And so it's horribly violent. Now, as this is going on, the United States is asked to intervene, and they show up, right? The Boxers, Uncle Sam. I occasionally do a little boxing myself. Now, what are his boxing gloves made of? Those are ships. And so naturally, we're going to use our Navy, which is the strongest at this point, to come and put down the Boxer Rebellion. And again, we have William McKinley here with Uncle Sam coming after the Boxers, and you have heads on sticks and things like that. And so is this imperialism, right? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, treatment of rights, and you can tell there's trampling on the American flag. And so the United States will come in and intervene, put down the Boxer Rebellion. When we put down the Boxer Rebellion, we come up with a saying, and it's been there for a while, and that is territorial integrity. And that is basically whoever's territory is there, let them have it. And yet we own the Philippines. It seems contradictory, I know, but territorial integrity is basically letting people rule who had been there. Now, there comes about another war, and this is actually kind of odd because we have the Russian powerhouse with the largest military in the world against Japan, a little island. And so in no way this happened, and look at the little cartoon here, we have Mike Tyson's Punch-Out here, essentially. We have the little nation of Japan whips up Russia in this Russo-Japanese war. They shock them. And this is the first time that an Asian country has beaten a former European powerhouse. And this is important going forward because Japan gets a little steam, and they actually carried the steam all the way into World War II. But we'll get into that later on. Now, to settle between the Russians and the Japanese, guess who pops up? Teddy Roosevelt, right? Teddy Roosevelt is not afraid to get in between things, and he actually wins the Nobel Peace Prize for settling the Russo-Japanese War, for finding a way for these two people to have peace. And so there we have a little bit of the beginning there. We will get back into building up of our Navy and everything else that has to go with that in a second.